does address the fact that we want to make sure that these aren't another vehicle for additional signage of any type as well. So I believe over the last 8 months or more, the staff has addressed all the concerns by the Plan Commission in bringing this ordinance forth before the village board. As I indicated, I know that the gasoline stations, convenience stores, all are very much interested in being allowed to sell these two different types of products outside.
Gene, I'm seeing actually self-service propane. Next to Home Depot, you have one you put your money in, it actually dispenses the canister. That fall under the same criteria.
Well, the intent, let's see, both ice storage bins and the LP storage cages are intended to be locked at all times and only to be unlocked by the employees. So this ordinance does not address self-service LP.
This would be much the same as the vending machines. So.
Right. Our ordinance does not allow self-service or vending machine type LP or ice.
That'll probably be the next one we have to address.
That would be up to the Plan Commission and the board to talk about that. That never even came up.
Our biggest concern on these, on the LP tanks, were the location and the building with reference to cars parking in front of them, possibly going over the parking block and hitting the LP tanks and possibly causing an explosion. And staff has addressed the concerns of the Plan Commission, and concerns the Plan Commission were accepted. I think we'll approve this.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Monica. Further discussion on this item? Mike?
I still have a few concerns and questions. I guess the first question is to Chief Gilbert, Chief Wagner, who are not here, but do they really believe it's safe to have the cylinders out there with only a raised sidewalk to stop the vehicle from hitting the gas cylinder cage? That kind of bothers me. That was brought up at the Planning Commission, and I don't think that's too safe. I could be wrong. That's still a question I have. The other question I have is safety for the employees there. If they've got to be locked at all times. I noticed the one in the BP, I rode around town, saw every one of them, looked at them. BP is pretty well tucked in the back. I don't know that it's locked. If they got to be locked at all times, if you have one employee there that's available to go unlock this thing, or if they have two, it sure does set them up to, after dark, for an assault or robbery to take place. I just have a concern with always being locked, and I see the first time something happens to an employee that has to unlock one of these ice machines when they haven't locked them in the past, that we get dragged into it. That's still a concern. The other one is the state line Citgo. Is that locked? That was pretty vulnerable as well. The last question I have is Truesdell has the gas cylinders in front of a window. I believe that's non-conforming.
It's illegal.
And it's illegal. There is no possible place for them to move that to. If the sidewalk goes all the way around, they would have to take sidewalk space somewhere, do something to redesign their sidewalks, just to sell LP gas. The comment was also made that we have a tough time enforcing what we do have now. What are we going to do to enforce it once this ordinance passes? You can hold their liquor license hostage. I just have some questions that we do need to look out for the facilities as well. Without putting a burden, because I know I like to shop within the village anytime I can. And if Truesdell right now, I think, is the only LP that I can go to in the village right now. If they have to get rid of it, what are we saying to some of the businesses? It's just a concern. I mean, maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but I just still have questions.
I
can answer the one on behalf of the chiefs. The intent of having the LP on a sidewalk that's raised, if you just have it there and there's only, if it's closed, that's not gonna help you. There has to be enough space so that a car pulling up just doesn't miss the brake or overextend and tap, go into the LP case. There's gotta be a big enough sidewalk so when you hit that curb, that stops the vehicle. Is it as effective as a bollard? If it's going very fast, maybe that wouldn't be effective. But that was the intent, is to take the existing sidewalks from the building and use those as a guard to keep that on there. And that sidewalk would have to be sufficient enough that the nose of the car when the wheels hit wouldn't extend into the cage where the LP is.
I can address all the other questions. The first of which had to do with the locking of the storage units for the gas and for the LP tanks as well as the ice. Typically they are locked during the day for most of the gas stations, if not all of them. The problem with not locking them is that ice can be taken without them being locked during the day. One of the conditions and one of the understandings with most of our gas stations, if not all of them, is that there's never just one employee on duty, that there's at least two, if not more. In all cases, we just completed liquor license. In every case, there was at least 2 or 3 employees that were in each of the gas stations. Our gas stations are not open 24 hours a day. I think there's just one that was grandfathered in. So because of that, there aren't employees at risk 24 hours a day at these facilities. The PDQ and 2 of the others actually have ice storage inside. And so the whole purpose of their outside chest was to move the ice from one location to the other so people can get it inside, not so that a clerk had to keep running outside to get the ice. With respect to True Sale, they actually have a location on the east side of their building that's without windows and without doors, that they could actually put their LP storage tank set up. And the only reason why I said that it's not permitted right now is because their conditional use permits expressly had prohibited it. And what we had told them is that while we're working through this process, we were not going to do any enforcement because some were violating, some weren't. I said, let's get through this process and find out exactly how the board's going to rule on this before we do any enforcement on it. But it's no different than any other violation. If you look at our gas stations and convenience stores, they're amongst the cleanest sites anywhere that you would see. And it's because we do enforce them, especially when we receive complaints and at liquor license time. I can honestly say that there's 1 or 2 gas stations that we have to watch a little bit more closely than others, but we do a good job. We believe in enforcing and telling what they need to do in order to keep their site neat and clean. With respect to, again, employees going out, again, I'm not seeing it as much of a problem because they have to unlock those facilities in order to assist the patrons. And it's no different than, any other gas station that's selling rock salt and some other big bundles and mulch and all those other things. They typically don't drag everything all the way into the cashier. A lot of times they just bring the tags or something inside and then they're loading it outside. So again, what we're trying to do is keep the sites neat and clean, presentable. We're trying to keep it a safe situation. We're trying to make it easy on the gas stations to allow to sell these 2 additional products, which typically aren't sold at a number of other places, but it's something that's needed in more of a short order. And we feel that we've addressed all the concerns. And in fact, when we did the liquor license inspections last week, we told them that this ordinance was coming before the board and that they might expect. And like I said, there was only 1 or 2 that needed to make some modifications.
Were they all aware that they had to keep them locked at all times?
I don't know if that every single one was. I know that we discussed it with a couple of them where we saw unlocked. Like one side of the ice chest was locked and one was unlocked.